Like many others watching the carnage in Gaza, I found myself shouting at the television over the last fortnight. There may be terrorists, but there are clearly many times more civilians in Gaza who have been bombarded day after day from aircraft, helicopters, and artillery shells. Last weekend, the army moved in, and even more civilians taking refuge from the bombardment are being killed and injured. The barbarity of these acts is accentuated, in my view, by the calculations that lie behind them. First of all, there's the political calculation that sees the month before the inauguration of Barack Obama, combined with the run-up to elections in Israel itself, as a window of opportunity for unleashing a violent onslaught. Secondly, there's the calculated media and diplomatic offensive, which has gone side by side with the military intervention and which was months in the planning. It's regrettable that the UK media, in its coverage of Gaza, has chosen to give so much prominence to Israeli spokespersons proffering justifications for the indefensible, rather than focusing on the effects of sophisticated weapons when used on civilian populations. Above all, media coverage, and especially television news coverage, amidst the vital context of this conflict, the fact that Palestinians have been systematically herded into smaller and smaller parcels of territory after forcible removal from their homes. In Gaza, the people have been barricaded in and deprived of vital infrastructure and supplies. Now, there have been Israeli casualties in areas close to Gaza as a result of the firing of mortar rockets. Any deaths or injuries caused by terrorist acts of this sort is something to be condemned, and I unreservedly do so. However, the systematic destruction caused in Gaza by much greater firepower is neither a proportionate nor an appropriate response. Military action has not succeeded in the past in preventing attacks of this kind. The only solution is one that removes the source of the grievance, and that is where Israel has failed. The current bombardment of Gaza will make a negotiated solution all the more difficult. Indeed, it appears calculated to do so, something the international community should take into account in its response to the current situation. For this is not just a humanitarian crisis, which could be dealt with if medical and food aid are brought in to relieve immediate suffering following a ceasefire. It's a continuing political crisis that will fester, with huge consequences for the whole world, until there is justice for the Palestinian people. There is no doubt that both sides share blame for failure to reach agreement at Camp David, the Palestinians as well as the Israelis. But if Hamas has succeeded in winning the support of many of the people of Gaza, it's because the previous Palestinian leadership was weakened in its ability to negotiate successfully. And the undermining of that Palestinian leadership was a deliberate act of policy by Israel and the Americans, who were not prepared to tolerate strong leadership of the Palestinians. To achieve a political solution, Israel will have to negotiate with leaders chosen by the Palestinian people. It will have to make territorial concessions, including concessions over Jerusalem, for which it is currently unprepared. I want to see an end to the bloodshed in Gaza, but it's not enough to stop the bombardment. Peace requires justice, and engagement on the basis of mutual respect is a prerequisite of any progress, which cannot be achieved by military means. The international community must demand justice for the Palestinians, justice whose legal basis is the UN resolutions that for so long we have failed to enforce. It's time for us not just to demand an end to the fighting, but to demand a lasting settlement. We have a responsibility, the whole world has a responsibility to make sure that's done. Thank you.